Please join me in singing our opening hymn, number 113, Where is Our Holy Church?
Where is our holy church? Where is the class unite as equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right? Where is our holy writ? Where'er our human heart a sacred torch of truth has lit by inspiration taught. Where is our Holy One? Almighty hosts respond. The people rise in every land to break the captive's bond. Where is our holy land? Within the human soul. Wherever free minds truly seek, with character the goal. Where is our paradise? In aspiration's sight, wherein we hope to see arise 10,000 years of pride.
Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist Virtual Sunday Service. My name is Susan McDaniel. I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. I welcome each of you to our online Sunday service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came to be with us today, you are welcome here. Come into this space we share, this sanctuary from the uncertainty of this time. We come searching for peace. We come searching for safety. We come searching for love. We come searching for community. We come wondering where this new year will take us. We come wondering what the future will bring. We come wondering who we will be at the end of this year. Come, worship together as a community to find peace, love, safety, and community. Come, let us worship together. Please join me in reading today's Chalice lighting words by Dag Hammarskjöld, number 455 in the Gray Hymnal. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back.
Hey, how's it going? This song is called Hey You. Hey, you over there. Come a little closer, I want you to hear. You are beautiful, just the way you are. You're a bright and shining star. Hey, you don't hang your head. Lift your eyes to the skies instead. 'Cause you matter and you're loved. Yes, we love you and we just can't get enough. There is hope. Dare to trust. There is room for love and we share our love with you. Yes, we're
Today's reading is from Jess Reynolds from their manual on meditation, Love Like Thunder. The cathedral is everywhere. I do not have to be in the city to find her, stone straining for heaven, like me. Here her shadow, there her weight, a solidness of rock and memory that could crush me to dust. She carries every failure in her stone, stone, stone. All the people begging sanctuary who could not find a home in her. All the harm her stewards have done, roiling in her belly until it bursts. Into hunger. I hunger for her shadow, for the safety of a church long standing, for the thrum, thrum, thrum of the prayers I was chanting in the womb. I hunger for a seismic shift. The cathedral is everywhere, in shadow or stone. Waves of incense call me in, but still she crumbles with injustice, and I can go no further than this window, standing on my tiptoes, trying to catch a stained glass image of God.
Where is our holy church? A sermon for January 3rd, 2021. Yes, it's 2021. Where is our holy church? Where race and class unite as equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right. This hymn, which was our opening hymn this morning, is probably not the greatest hymn in our hymnal, but it's one that I rather like because it asks us to reimagine church and to reimagine Scripture and to reimagine the divine and place and even heaven. It tells us that these things are not fixed, permanent objects, but rather realities we engage with our living. It is that imagination and engagement that moves me, especially during this time of change, this time of figuring out new ways. When we're not able to meet in person, we might well ask, where is our holy church? This morning, I'd like to talk a little bit about our church, the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. I'd like to talk about what I've learned from doing church virtually and digitally, and sometimes physically distanced and masked for the past 9 or 10 months. I'd like to talk this morning about some of the ways that some of my thinking about church has changed and hasn't changed. And as we enter a new year, as the vaccine is beginning to be distributed, as we look to the future, I'd like to share a few forward-looking thoughts about church in the post-pandemic era. This past year, I've taken to saying to anyone who asks, this past year has been the most impactful year of my ministry, and also in other ways the least satisfying, the most impactful and the least satisfying. Most significant and impactful because it feels to me like everything we're doing, the services and the pastoral messages, the keeping connected, the creating beauty, the holding space for each other, the work of accompanying immigrants and supporting voting rights and making space for dialogue. All of these things we're doing are having an impact, and they're making a difference. And least satisfying because I really miss the satisfaction that comes from laughter in the sanctuary after I tell a goofy joke. I miss that feeling of holding hands for Shalom or shaking hands in the receiving line after the service. I miss the silence of my covenant group, all holding a deep breath together. And I miss the sound of the whole church singing together. Last spring, in the early months of the pandemic, I was on the phone with Bill Petit. And Bill said something that's become really one of my mantras. Bill said, "Thom, you all are making lemonade every single day." He said, "You all are making lemonade every day." And we have been. Figuring out how to have a Zoom coffee hour, creating a Vespers service, Marion and Kat's astoundingly innovative family worship videos, a wildly successful online auction, and a Hogwarts on the Hill summer camp, and a choir service, and a children's pageant. So much more. We are making lemonade every day. There's been a lot of lemons, but we're making that lemonade. Here are some things that I've learned or that have become crystal clear to me over the course of doing ministry during this pandemic. One thing I've learned for sure is that I definitely don't want to be a televangelist. I mean, I kind of knew that before, but now I really know it. Another thing that I knew before, but now know with utmost certainty, is that we have a healthy and strong and well-run congregation. There's a couple of writers who I read, Thom Rainier and Carey Nieuwhof. They write about church leadership, and they write from an evangelical perspective, but I find what they write to be very applicable and thoughtful. But boy, oh boy, reading these two, they've been straight up doom and gloom this past year. In August, Thom Rainier published a piece called 6 Reasons Your Pastor is About to Quit, in which he claimed that due to the pandemic, quote, "The vast majority of pastors with whom our team communicates are saying they are considering quitting their churches." And about a week and a half ago, Carey Nieuwhof published a piece called Something's Got to Give. 5 Reasons Ministry is Such a Pressure Cooker These Days. Both articles talked about sharp increases in church fights, destructive conflict, criticism, non-covenantal and anti-covenantal behavior, and just general nastiness that have occurred in many congregations during the stress of this pandemic. According to Thom Rainier, quote, "One pastor recently shared with me the number of criticisms he receives are 5 times greater than the pre-pandemic era. Church members are worried," he continues, "church members are weary, and the most convenient target for their angst is him." And though Rainier and Nieuwhof write for an evangelical audience, a number of conversations I've had with Unitarian Universalist ministers have left me with the impression that their congregations have been a little bit feisty, combative, pugilistic. And that just hasn't been my experience at all. We've been making lemonade. That's how we've responded as a congregation. On the whole, we have responded to these challenging times by becoming more generous, more forgiving, more forbearing, more understanding, kinder, more supportive. We've covered one another with the mantle of charity, rather than looking down upon each other with eagle-eyed malice. Perhaps our work around health, trust, and covenant has been paying dividends. Perhaps there is a storehouse of goodwill we've built up. Perhaps we've grown together in our own spiritual maturity. But you have made this hard time so much easier. On me, on the staff, on our leaders, on each other. Made it so much easier than it could have been. And thank you. Thank you. Where is our holy place? Within the human soul, wherever free minds truly seek with character the goal. Here's something I know about church. Church is not a building. It's not an address. It's not a place, not even our lovely sanctuary with the windows and the art, and the purple pews. Church is not a building, even as we expand our building with this exciting building project. Church is worshiping together in the sanctuary, but it is not only worshiping together in the sanctuary. Church is also the water circle gathering in religious education on Sunday morning. Church is the high school sleepover playing sardines at 1 o'clock in the morning. There is choir church singing together on Wednesday night in community. There is even such a thing as kitchen church. I've seen it, I know it. It's that bustle of setting out pasta before a meal or punch before a memorial service. Kitchen church is real. There's also covenant group church and book club church and auction party church and Habitat for Humanity church and marching on the General Assembly in Raleigh church. Now, some of these we've had to suspend, and some of them we've had to adapt and do differently, but others we've been able to continue seamlessly. Lectio, covenant group, campus ministry, and more, they just keep on meeting. We've kept on serving meals, kept on supporting immigrants, kept on practicing dialogue across difference. There was an article that ran on Christmas Eve in the New York Times by Esau Macaulay entitled, "Why You Can't Meet God Over Zoom." Merry Christmas, right? The author talks about how hard it is to translate the church he knows and loves, which for him is the Black church experience, to Zoom. He mourns the loss of call and response. He mourns the loss of the power of the gospel choir singing. He mourns the loss of pageantry and the frenzy. And still he attends church on Zoom each week. Esau Macaulay remarks insightfully. I'm going to read at length from his piece because I think it's that good. He shares these insightful remarks. In the months of pandemic worship, he writes, I have come to recognize that religious services by their very nature cannot fulfill what they promise. Services attempt to usher finite people into the presence of someone we believe is infinite. What hymn or sermon can capture that? We're chasing the wind. There are fits and starts, hints of something at the edge of our perception, but not the thing itself. Humans, he continues, disappoint, especially those we expect to share our beliefs and our values. We see other believers fail to display the deep love for one another and the stranger that is commended in our sacred texts. We witness others compromise our deepest values, sacrificed for access to power. Integrity seems in short supply. We attend services where the people are unfriendly, the sermons aren't great, and the music is a struggle. Instead of encountering the transcendent, we bump against the limits of the human. But we stay. We stay because attendance is not about what the church gives us. It is our way of offering something to God, Esau Macaulay says. It is a small rebellion, a way of saying that there is more to life than simply the acquisition of more. It is an attempt to become the kind of people who live lives of charity and service. Esau Macaulay's column, part of Esau Macaulay's column in the New York Times, on why it is hard to meet God on Zoom. And Preacher is onto something there. This struggle that Esau Macaulay names is the same longing that Jess Reynolds identified in their poetic reading that Susan McDaniel read earlier. Jess Reynolds writes, "The cathedral is everywhere. In shadow or stone, waves of incense call me in, but still she crumbles with injustice. And still I can go no further than this window, standing on my tiptoes, trying to catch a stained glass glimpse of God." Even in times, my friends, even in times of seismic change and disruption, social change, economic disruption, technological shifts, political upheaval, what church is actually about seems to be much the same. Fallible and limited people, human merely beings, as E. Cummings calls us, striving to have an experience of the infinite and the transcendent. Perfectly imperfect people who feel called in their life to just a bit more charity, service, greater gratitude, and longing for a touch of that amazing grace. Where is our paradise? In aspiration's sight, wherein we hope to see arise 10,000 years of right. And so we keep gathering on Zoom. We keep making lemonade out of those lemons. We keep supporting one another and listening to one another and connecting and reaching out as best we can. It is where our holy church is found. In this, in all of this. Amen.
Trains are running towards each other. Shotguns are pointed at my head. Little clouds are forming on the crossroads. Big storms are falling off my plate, but I'm still here. Oh, I'm still here. Today may be falling, but I'm still here. Assassination squad has got their orders. Repossession man is on his way. Landlady has given me a notice. Pitched out in the trash and standing there, but I'm still here. Oh, I'm still here. May have lost my lunchbox. You too, but I'm still here. Go ahead. still here.
Each week, we hold in our service a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows that we bring to this community. This past week, several members reached out to me asking me to place stones for their joys and their sorrows. First stone this week was asked to be placed by Marnie Goldflag. Marnie writes, Wednesday of this past week was the 3rd anniversary of Trey and my wedding. It's hard to believe that it's been 3 years since our wedding. In some ways, it seems like it's been way longer, and in other ways, it seems like just yesterday. I'm so glad that we have each other in our lives. So congratulations to Trey and Marnie on their 3rd anniversary. Susan Spalt asked, could I please drop a stone on Sunday for my dear friend Edwina, a longtime school nurse at Phillips and other schools. Edwina recently had surgery for a brain tumor and is in the hospital as her surgeons try to figure out the next steps. Susan asks that we keep Edwina and her family in our prayers. Amy Maddox asked me to place a stone for a concern. Amy's dad, Dave Schaub, a member of our church, had a heart attack early Wednesday morning. He had 2 stents put in over the course of a few days' stay at UNC Hospital, and Dave, fortunately, is now resting comfortably at home with his wife, Susie. Amy writes that the cardiologists have been terrific, attentive, and kind. And so we hold in our hearts prayers for healing for Dave, and we hold Susie, as well as Amy and Paul and Charlie and Emily in our hearts this morning. A final stone is placed for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken this morning. Since the title of this morning's service was Where is our holy church? I thought it would be appropriate to end with this prayer, this reading by Nancy Schaefer, entitled Prayer for This Church. May each one among us have skin that longs to touch other skin, fingertips that long for other fingertips, or whole hands, or even arms. Bodies that long to stand next to other bodies not alone, while singing, bending, stirring soup. May ones whose skin doesn't cry out for other skin wish it did, and so teach it, so that no one stands alone, and no one aches, and does not say so. May our doors become so open that it becomes drafty inside, and people sometimes shout, because noises without come also within. May those sheltered here sometimes cry all at once, letting tear water clean what words themselves cannot. In silent times, may everyone present hear everyone else breathing, and know this is not separate for how the world breathes at night. May we always have enough room for those many who want to come in. May those who cherish this church be so glad they cannot stop speaking, stop asking, and may crowding itself be a gladness as we keep adding rooms. May we notice each one who is new and invite her to stay. And may our list of names for the holy not ever be finished. And may we hear God chuckling with us as we find still more. Amen. Blessed be.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope beside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has taught us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
The words by which we extinguish the chalice are these: we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please join in singing Shalom.
Shalom.